in this episode.
And, I'm sitting there at the first stage trying to watch, and again, must have been written on my face. And both Neil and AK Mario come up and they're like, "Hey man, is this your first match?" I was like, "Yeah, sure is." And I was like, "Is it that obvious?" And they're like, "Yeah, a little bit." And they're like,
In an obtuse world, Mark and Jefe will combine military, law enforcement, and general FUD knowledge to keep you vertical. Welcome to the Live, Laugh, Larp podcast.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Thanks for joining us on another edition of the Live, Laugh, Larp podcast. I really do appreciate everybody swinging by, taking the time out of your day to listen to us chat about whatever comes to mind. This time I am flying solo. Our good buddy Jefe is not going to make it this time. He is coming home from vacation, I think. Took a nice little jaunt outside the U.S. for a little bit and is coming back today as I'm recording this. So he was pretty tired. I think we give him a pass this time. But needless to say, we wish him safe travels and all of that jazz. And hopefully we can get him on the next episode as usual. With that being said, naturally, we have to say a huge thank you to our channel sponsor. It's a channel sponsor, a podcast sponsor, a title sponsor. That's what I'm trying to say. It's Excess Sights. You guys know that it is one of the sights that I use on a number of different pistols and even have some stuff on a lever gun. It's been really great options for not only myself, but my girlfriend. She's got a set on her Walther PDP. We've got a set on a pair of Glocks. I've got my Remlin 336W 3030 has some accessories going on with it as well. So if you guys are interested in Excess Sights, if you guys want to jump in on getting something nice for your friends or whatever the case may be, check them out. We get a 20% discount on anything off their site using the code LARP. That's LARP. So if you guys are interested picking up some Excess Sights for yourself, use the code. That will let them know that we sent you. And yeah, that's it. That's just lets them know that we sent you. We don't get a kickback on it or anything like that. It's just a discount for you guys, and a huge thank you to everybody else. But this time we're going to be talking about a recent competition that myself and our guests competed in. It was just this last weekend. It's Kalashni-Con. We're also going to be touching on Kalash Bash a little bit as well, because again, we both competed in both of those. But before we get into all of that type of stuff, we're going to say huge welcome to Boltz N Holez. What's going on, Boltz?
"Oh, hey man, it's actually been kind of looking forward to doing this eventually."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that I've been trying to get you on the podcast, especially like when we're at Kalash Bash together, because, that's kind of still fresh and all that type of stuff.
Right. I meant to, and I don't know, things didn't line up. So.
Well, that's a crazy busy weekend anyway. So, but needless to say, kind of last moment, I was like, "Hey, Boltz, man, freaking, let's get you on. Let's talk about Kalashni-Con, because obviously it's still pretty fresh in our minds." Mm-hmm. Happened just this last weekend. You, sir, you did awesome, and being able to be in the same squad as you is always a pleasure. It always kind of lifts me up a little bit and kind of forces me to do a little bit more than what I probably would do just on my own. But let's take a step back. Let's introduce you to those people who may not know you. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Like what I do for work?
Yeah, whatever. Who you are, what you like. How's your Sundays look?
Usually my Sundays are pretty wide open, but no, I manage a small gun store that has SOT and everything in a little corner of Missouri in a town named Joplin. You guys probably seen or possibly have seen the Netflix documentary about our world record tornado that we had.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Yeah. So it's in that town. But I mean, if you guys don't know, SOT basically means that we're allowed to handle, NFA items, so suppressors, stuff like that. So we're also manufacturers. So I mean, we can, you know, manufacture guns. Like we can make machine guns for, law enforcement if they request it, stuff like that.
Right on, right on. And of the things that you've seen come through recently, has there been anything that's been kind of, I don't know, in something that has raised your eyebrows a little bit? Just like, oh, check this out.
I mean, I've always got something that I'm trying to pay for. It seems like, especially working in a gun shop. Like if you think it's bad, always seeing stuff that you want, it's a million times worse being in a gun store every day for your job, because it's not just the new things come out, it's things coming through the door that you would never expect. Like just some guy come in like, hey, I want to get rid of this, unconverted Saiga 545 by 39, and he wants nothing for it because he doesn't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, but as far as newer things, I've been toying with the idea of getting into 2011 for a while. So I don't know which one I want to get into. I'm not completely sold on the platform, so I don't know. I really don't think I'm going to invest in something like a Staccato or anything for my first one. Especially seeing I've shot several Staccatos and they're nice. I just don't think that they're quite deserving of their price tag. So
yeah. That is for sure. I've shot a few different ones. Staccatos have been pretty nice. I know that back in the day when Corinne Mosier was still kind of competing with Terran Tactical and those groups of people, she ran one of the it was like the Staccato Commander Terran Tactical, who's it, what's it. I did a video on it. It was very similar to that of what was used in John Wick, and it was a nice shooter. It was for sure. It was a nice shooter. But man, I've had, and this is probably a poor example, but I've had a Springfield Prodigy, and it's fine. I shot it last year at Kalashni-Con, and it worked just fine. But after about 200 rounds, 250 rounds, maybe approaching 300 rounds, that's when it really starts to sludge up. And you've got to really be on top of your maintenance schedule for that. And if you're in a competition that it's going to be, several hundred rounds, it might be prudent for you to even like break it down and wipe it down mid-match, at least my example, so.
Well, I know, so I mean, again, working in a gun store, when they first released those, we got a few of the very first batch that went out, and naturally we had one that seemed okay, and one was like mediocre at best, and then there was one that was just absolutely atrocious. I mean, the customer felt it, before he bought it and everything, and still it ended up having to go back to Springfield, and there was just a laundry list of things that they either fixed or replaced or, fitted, you name it. Now, since he's gotten it back, he's had good luck with it. And I'll say, that definitely made us gun shy to those things. So we just quit stocking them. But, flash forward now, 2-3 years that they've been out. We've seen some of their newer ones, especially some of the chunk ported ones they're offering. And I've personally shot one, and it actually was quite nice. Whenever the one I shot had already been shot several hundred rounds, not cleaned. I think when I got it, I just put a little bit of lube on it, a little bit of oil, and then I shot it a couple hundred rounds, and I had no problems out of it.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah. Well, I can tell you that here, especially this year, I've taken a big dive into the 92 series, the Berettas, and their 92 XI single action only Sabia is good. I would like to see that trigger be a little lighter than what it is, but their 92X performance is what I wanted to run for Kalashni-Con. Man, that thing, I would have done really well with that, but I couldn't find a red dot that would work for it, which seems very odd. And the mounting solution for the 92 for a red dot is not the best. And so finding something that would work was I just didn't have enough time to do it before. I made the decision a couple of days before Kalashni-Con that I was going to run it, and then tried to zero it, and it just didn't work out. So I've got to go back to the drawing board and find a different red dot. So
yeah, so I actually do kind of like those. Typically, I'm not a big Beretta guy with their handguns. The 92, especially in the past, like the older 92s and the M9 and everything, has that hump on the back of the grip.
Yep.
And for my hands, whenever I grip it the way I do, it puts my right thumb right behind that disconnector, or not disconnector, decocker on the slide.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not very friendly to me. Now, when they came out with the 92Xs with the flat rear of the grip, it changed that angle enough to where I don't have that. And it's funny you say something about the single action only. We have somebody that purchased, I don't know if you've seen the camouflage line that they released, where they're making some in like DCU, M81, chocolate chip, that's just factory Cerakoted, but they're all single action only guns. And we had a customer buy one, never shot it, and brought it back, and it's on consignment. And it's very rarely that the day doesn't go by that I don't pick that thing up and play with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that's the downside to that Sabia that I have, is it is perfect in every way except for the trigger. The trigger, I think, could be refined. And I think, to be honest with you, I think I might be able to swap out like the mainspring with a standard 92 or even a 92X to maybe lighten it up. I'll have to do some more digging on it to see if, which springs really need to be changed to tune it up. But there is so much potential in that pistol. I'm actually excited to see what else I can do with it. So, but anyway, let's take another step back and just kind of dive into Kalashni-Con real quick. For those that are listening that have never done it, who have been maybe curious about it or just have no idea what we're talking about, in your own words, what would you say kind of typifies what that competition is?
I've always tried to explain it to people. It's kind of like tactical games, but AKs. Like the only rifles you can use are AK based. Or I've seen some similarities to some of the brutality matches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I actually saw a video, I think it was like Poland or Tactical or something like that, shared a video, and there was somebody running a stage, and I think his pistol fell out of his holster and he got DQ'd.
Right.
But it was just like Kalashni-Con, it was not loaded. He wasn't doing the pistol part of a stage. And I think there was another video of that same match, and they forced them to retain magazines and stuff. So I think it's probably a little bit closer to a brutality match than it is tactical games.
Yep. Yeah, I'd agree with that too. I've done a tactical games, and I would do a Kalashni-Con any day of the week over tactical games. But essentially, for just to kind of add on to it, it is obviously a 2-gun match, pistol, rifle. Rifle has to be an AK variant of some sort. And they put you through is 1 to 2 days. You can actually choose to either do 1 day or 2 days. If you compete in 1 day, then you're only competing against the people that compete that day. If you do both days, you're still only competing against those people that on that day. But instead of doing 6 stages, you can do 12, and the stages are different from 1 day to the next. So it's very
every day is its own match, basically.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's a more concise way of saying it. And it ends up being a 2-gun competition that realistically is not the norm around the country. You know, you hear people that go to like AK Masters or let's see, Red October, even Clash Bash, and those are great matches. But at the end of the day, this one is its own shebang.
Yes. Yeah, that's what, anytime, I say something about going to a match, and they think, naturally, the first thing people think of, if they know anything about, shooting matches, period, they think of shooting cardboard targets and stuff. And granted, I mean, I think the first Kalashni-Con, I don't know if it was your first Kalashni-Con, but at my first Kalashni-Con, when they were hosting them at Big Piney, there was more cardboard.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's steel, which they did that was last year was the first year for that. And at first I did not know how I felt about that. Because there was, it's just, and another thing I tell people is like Kalashni-Con is just like you said, it's just its own animal. It is a match, but they do things on purpose to make it to where you can't, what we call game it. So you can't, I mean, there's always a little bit of it that you can't, squeeze out of there. People are going to game something. But they make it to where it's just like, you absolutely have to do it this way. And it tests everyone equally. And so it's a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I do appreciate it, because you end up having to think through the stage a little bit more than, you would at, any of the other matches that are out there. Because most competitions do not require you to retain your mags. And
right.
That is something that can get you into trouble real quick. Not only just doing a simple reload, but also, as we found, my buddy RJ on one of the stages, jumped off of a prop and was heading to the next shooting station and lost one of his mags on the run. So then he had to stop, turn around. And as he stopped and turned around, he ate shit because he slid right into some mud and just freaking fell over.
I think I was actually filming for him whenever he did that.
Yeah, you were. So. So it makes you consider your gear setup, your mag placements, how's your sling going to interface with your mags, all of that type of stuff. So yeah, that's why I do appreciate it a lot more. In Boltz, I was listening to your after action review on Instagram. If you guys aren't following Boltz N Holez, I'll leave all of the information down in the description of the podcast where you can find him. But he puts out some really great content, and there's actually some insightful content as well. Looking at, say, different types of subsonic ammunition through a certain type of firearm, like you did today. Definitely swing by and check him out. And I just lost what I was getting ready to say, where I was going with all that.
We're talking about my AAR on.
Oh, right. Yeah. One of the things that I picked up on was that you were concerned about some of the stages that were full time. Like, you were going to be in that stage for 180 seconds, regardless of how fast you ran it.
Right.
And you were concerned because you thought maybe that might drag that competition up a little bit, cause a bit of a bottleneck. And I was agreeing with you up until the point just now when you were starting to say that when they moved from Big Piney to the lead farm last year and moved away from the paper targets, that just clicked in my head. I was like, well, now we're running steel on every single stage. There's very minimal reset. Yeah, you don't have to tape and everything. So they can run those 180-second stages, and it's really not going to affect it too much, I would say. But still, that did prove to be a longer than normal day.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they got done with the award ceremony until 9 p.m. something like that.
It was pretty much it was about that.
And I was really surprised. I'll admit, because there was 2 or 3 stages on Saturday that was full 180 seconds for everybody.
Well, for me, it was definitely 3 stages because I timed out.
Well, I timed out on my very last stage on Sunday, so
okay.
that was I would say that's a first for me, but actually I think I timed out. You weren't. I don't think you were there for Sunday last year, were you?
No.
So last year Sunday was I'm sure you've probably heard about the horror stories, but shooting through the ladder and stuff. Yeah, that's the one I timed out on, but almost everybody did. There was just a literal handful of people that made it. But Matt got rid of it, but he replaced it with something else that proved to be, for a lot of people, equally as hard. So it's just, and that's another thing about Kalashni-Con. Since you're not just blasting paper targets down, and just hosing things down, like Kalashni-Con, it really pays to not necessarily go slow, but take a little bit more time and make sure you get your hits. Because, typical match, if you fail to neutralize a target, say you hit not in the A zone or something just one time and you just don't get 2 hits, so your penalty is anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds.
Right.
And Kalashni-Con, it's 30. So it's an unbelievably heavy penalty. And I'm not to mention, like you talking about magazines, if you drop a magazine and don't recover it before you fire that next round, it's 10 seconds.
For every round afterwards.
They changed it.
Did they?
Where I think they changed it to where it's just 10 seconds. But yeah, it was for every single round. So if if you're really early on in the stage, drop a mag and you run the rest of the stage, depending on how many rounds you fire, I mean, that you could really, really hurt yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And I found that out at my very first Kalashni-Con, which would have been the last year at Big Piney.
Yeah, the same for me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. It was it would have been the Saturday. They had the kind of shoot house setup that was the blind stage.
Oh yeah.
Well, I just ran right on in there and walked, or literally ran right by the first shooting position. I didn't understand that when they said, okay, you go through here, you take a left, you have your first shooting position, that's where you can load. I understood it as you go there and you load and then you move forward and start shooting. So I completely missed one bay.
Ooh.
It was just 3 targets. So right out of the gate, I was 90 seconds in the hole.
Jeez. So, yeah, and I also remember, I think they might have, so they had another stage there, I believe, on Sunday. And I think it was another thing that kind of like what they did this year, where that was where they had the rock wall last year. And they had that section where I was holding something in my left hand, shooting a handgun with my right hand. And you had like a limited number of rounds. And so it's just like, basically, if you don't get this, like if you don't take your time, you know, watch your breathing and stuff and make sure you get this hit, then, you just earned yourself an FTN.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say it was like something like there were steel, like some sort of actuator behind a cardboard target. So you couldn't actually see exactly what the target that you were shooting at.
Yep.
Yeah, and that made it pretty difficult.
Yep. I remember that. I remember that stage because it wasn't there like some targets at the bottom that were supposed to simulate dogs or something like that.
Yes.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So that one I shot the paper, it goes through, it hits an actuator that then drops the paper target forward and presents a circular steel target. So then I shoot that and it doesn't go over, and I'm just like, is that a hit or what?
Yeah.
So I'm just like 3 seconds, just kind of looking at the RSO like, well, what's going on here?
Right.
I'll just keep on going. And no, it was not a hit. So like, great. Wonderful.
Well, I mean, case or an example here of something similar. There was, let's see. Were you there for the stage that we had to drag the dummy? Or was
that was Sunday of last year. I was not.
Okay,
but I heard about it.
Well, they had it again, or you had to drag the dummy again in a different manner this year. But luckily, by the time we got to the stage, the RO for that stage, there was already one of the pistol targets that he knew was problematic.
Mm.
And he says, this one has been having the tendency, when you hit it, it will pop down so fast, it will pop back up.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, if you hit that, and I see it do that, and he's like, I'm just going to tell you to go on and not worry about it. That said, there was a stage. I think, I'm pretty sure you got to stand on the uneven or the not stationary platforms last year, like the springboard and everything.
No, that was the Sunday.
No?
That was Sunday
Okay.
as well. Yeah.
Well, they had that again this year. Well, in the middle, they had a little spot where you had to shoot handgun from prone, and it had to be through this tiny port. Like, literally, imagine a port the size of your cell phone, and your barrel, had to be flush or protruding through this little thing. And I mean, as you know, I shot 45 ACP both days.
Yeah.
And I hit one of the pistol lollipops, and instead of it knocking it down, it just turned the target sideways. I mean, it was still enough to where I was able to hit it again and get it knocked over. But like, I remember hitting it, and I looked up at the RO, and he just was standing there blank. So I was like, okay, that means shoot it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was an interesting take. One that I wasn't necessarily surprised by, but at the same time, I was like, that's actually kind of smart. You run in 1911s because there's a 10 round mag cap on our pistols for Kalashni-Con. So just running 10 round mags on a 1911, I mean, that's actually pretty smart, because you don't have to worry about those targets not going over if you don't hit them just right. Like I do with a 115 grain 1911 or a 9mm rather. So
right. Well, and last year, and I've seen him. I don't think I saw him this year, but the first couple of years I went to KCON, there's this great big guy. He has a great big gray beard, and he would run a 1911. And I was just watching him run it, and I was like, good for him. I don't think he was running 10 round magazines, but I at first I was like, man, that's, I don't know why he would do that. And then I got thinking, like, well, why not? Just like you said, if I'm capped to 10 rounds, I might as well. And were you there for the stage that had the Texas Star that was on a pendulum?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So I was thinking the same thing, watching you guys run that stage before I ran it, and then almost everybody's shooting 115 grain 9mm. I get it. It's the cheapest and easiest thing to get. and people were having trouble getting that actuator to release that, as we called it, the Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there thinking, oh, this is not going to be a problem for me, because I was shooting federal, that 150 grain Syntec. And so I was like, yeah, this is not going to be a problem for me. I still had to hit that thing like 4 times just to get it to release. And that was another thing going into it. I was hoping they would have something like that again, but they did not have any sort of Texas Stars or anything this year. So that's another thing about Kalashni-Con. It seems like just when you think you're going to learn, and don't get me wrong, like there's definitely some lessons you can learn from, either a positive or a negative experience at Kalashni-Con that you can take with you next year.
Mm-hmm.
But they always change something to where, like I told Matt that last year, the ladder stage, like I said, it killed me. So I was literally about to start grabbing a ladder that we had, and I made sure that I bought the steel target sizes that he had out at 100 yards, I think is what it was, and literally just practicing with that, like shooting through a ladder and stuff. And then, a few weeks out from that, before I started actually shooting through the ladder, Matt lets it out, and he's like, oh yeah, I got rid of the ladder. I was like, oh, and I'd literally, I'd went and bought steel targets of that size just to prep for it. But in a different way, it still ended up working out in my benefit.
Yeah, no. That type of practice really does help. And one of the things that really bugs me, and this is not a dig against Kalashni-Con. I like it. It's just inherently something wrong with me in the fact that when we go to like the blind stage, like we did this year, and then the last stage that we did on Saturday, that you were, right in my ear, coaching me along the way, which was just absolutely awesome. It was honestly, it was like having a security blanket for sure, but I had a hard time seeing targets.
Oh yeah.
And
so, like for instance, you were gone Sunday, the very last stage of the day, Sunday, there was just one target that I even looked through it with my binoculars and I could see it. So I knew where it was. I still just could not hit it. I mean, I hit it, but not enough times, not quick enough, to complete the stage.
Yeah. It's unnerving for me because, you get into a situation where you're like, okay, like prime example. So our last stage on Saturday, you have a wall that you have to shoot 5 targets around the right side or the left side, and then you switch over to the opposite side that you just shot from, and it re-engaged the same 5 targets. Those targets, maybe anywhere between 50 to 75 yards away, not very far. Not far. Maybe not even that, but the sun is starting to go down. I mean, we still probably had 3 hours worth of sunlight, but that sun is starting to slowly get into your vision. It's casting shadows. It's been shot at all day long, so they're gray, and just trying to pick out a square or a round shape in bush and brush, 50 yards away. It really was difficult. And then that starts to cause me to be unsettled, because now here I am trying to find this target and shoot it, get a good hit on it. And all the while my mind is like, hurry up. So the anxiety just creeps in, and man, it kills me, man. That's why I was so pissed off after the blind stage. I mean, I didn't let it show to anybody, but I was almost to the point of inconsolable, because I was like, that's it. That's my match. I mean, I might as well just, try to go for last place or something.
Well, I mean, again, you weren't there. So the stage, let's see, the second to last stage. And I think the reason why, so the second to last stage, I also made just a stupid mistake, and it was a, typical KCON fashion. It was a very healthy penalty. And so I had that stage, and then the very last stage, I didn't even complete it. So, naturally there was penalties for not taking out those targets. And to end on a bad note, because before that, looking at my times and everything, I was getting like at least half of my stages that day were stage wins for my division.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing so well, and then just for some reason, and it's not that I didn't do well at the second to last stage, but I pulled that, that stupid mistake, and it, like I say, it just basically threw all my hard work out the window. But, I was thinking the same thing, now after the very last stage, I didn't act very well. I'm just going to say, anybody that saw that, I apologize. I was very mad at myself. As soon as I cleared my gun, I went over and I just threw my gun down on my gun bag. Like I was not happy. Jamie even came over and gave me a hug. and the weird thing is though, so naturally, I if everybody's listening that has paid attention to my AAR on KCON, scores are messed up right now, and it's not anybody with KCON's fault. It's practice score all the way, just as I suspected. But at the end of Sunday, it showed I got 5th, which, honestly, I still felt like that was pretty decent considering how bad I did on those last 2 stages. But that is honestly the worst placing I've ever had at a KCON. Mm-hmm. So I was, again, also not very happy. And as you know, the signal out there is absolutely terrible. It's just non-existent.
Right.
It wasn't until I was about 20 minutes away going home, I'm looking at practice score, and I'm like, wait a minute. I have 5 stages listed, not 6.
Yep.
And I start trying, process of elimination. I figure out what stage I have missing, and it's a stage that I felt like I did pretty well at. And I start looking at everybody else in my division, what their times are, and I quickly figure out that's another division win for me. So the way scoring works, for you guys that don't know, like if I win that stage, if I'm the fastest in my division, I get the maximum amount of points, which is 100. So I literally had 100 points missing, and I still placed 5th. So, and that's even with those 2 bad stages. And the year before that, on Saturday or on Sunday, I had that ladder stage that just ate my lunch. And I was thinking the same thing, like, oh my gosh, like this is horrible. Mm-hmm. And I'm probably not gonna, and I still placed 2nd. I think it was Clay that beat me. And I mean, can't lose to a better person. But right. It just goes to show at KCON, you might have a really bad stage, but I can almost promise you that whoever else that you're using to set your standards to, that you're, neck and neck with, or you're trying to beat, they're probably going to have at least 1 bad stage also. If not, have a couple of little small mistakes that add up, So if you have 1 bad stage at KCON, just shrug it off and keep going, because you're probably still in the running.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I'm sitting here looking at practice score right now, and even though I timed out on the jungle run, I still came in 9th.
Right.
For my division, which is still top 10. Cool. Yeah. The problem is I had 4 stages that I was either 10th or 9th. So Ring My Bell, I think, is stage 3, which is where we started. I got a 10th place finish there in my division. The Cowboy stage was 9th. The long range, I ended up with a 9th place there. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense, because I thought I did fairly well. But okay, whatever. And then Welcome to the Jungle, which is the Jungle Run blind stage. So you don't, for those of you who are listening that don't understand what we keep on saying about blind stages, you come up, they give you a stage brief. They say, you've got X number of targets here, you've got X number of targets there, and you got X number of targets there. This is how you engage them. That's it. That's all the information you get. You don't get to see where the targets are. You don't get to really get an accurate idea of how far they are. They'll say they're about 200, but they're going to tell you the exact distance.
Right.
So even with with me timing out on the Jungle Run and having 2 failures to engage, which was 60 seconds added to my time. So my total time was 2:28:69. I still came in 9th on that one.
Right.
And then wrap around back to the first stage, which was take a lap. I pulled off a 3rd place finish there. And then, to my surprise, our last stage that we talked about, shooting around that wall, I ended up taking a 3rd place finish there as well.
Nice.
So that was pretty nice too. So overall for me, 5th place finish in my division on Saturday, 14th overall. Not what I was expecting. I pulled a 4th place last year, so I was hoping to podium this year. But too many mental mistakes, that's what it really boiled down to.
Yeah. And I mean, K-Con being also a lot more physical as the day goes on. I think if you're not, if you're not, drinking enough water, which you really have to do there,
Mm-hmm.
replenishing some electrolytes, or just physically not prepared for that match, as everybody knows, I mean, that can go on to affect your mental focus and stuff like that. So that match can. It can. I mean, and that Matt designs it that way on purpose.
Yeah.
He literally says, "I want it to kick your ass."
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So, it's. I tell you, it's tough. It's really tough for me too, because I wasn't where I wanted to finish, but I've talked to so many different people, and they're like, "Bro, you're top 5. How many people were shooting?"
Oh yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it was 36. And they're like, you were top 5 of 36 people. That's huge.
Yeah.
So even my daughter, I was telling my daughter, she's like, well, I know you're pissed off, but I'm still proud of you. It's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's cool.
Well,
So,
my
go
wife
ahead.
basically said the same thing, because that was before we figured out what was going on with scoring. She's just like, so Sunday, again, for you guys that don't know, like a couple years ago, my dad, who got me into shooting, had a stroke, and basically, he got me into this hobby and everything, and not necessarily competition shooting, but just firearms, and mentored me and everything. So it's basically, he's just in a state, he's still around and everything. It just, I won't get to do that with him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really wanted to do really well with, I shot, one of his Wassers and his IPSC 1911 on Sunday. And so naturally that meant a lot to me to try and do well, and to be doing that good and then fall off. Like I said, I was super frustrated with myself. And my wife, as we're packing up and getting in the car, she's like, "Hey, I know you might not have, gotten out of this day what you wanted, but," she's like, "I'm still proud of you, and I still love you."
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's all that matters,
Yeah.
And I'm sure your dad would feel the exact same way,
Oh yeah.
But Saturday though, tell everybody what happened Saturday with how you finished up.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Saturday. So I've always shot just like you. I've always just shot dot, or well, you have recently just always shot dot.
Mm-hmm.
So this year I stepped out of my comfort zone. Both days I shot magnified Saturday, iron sights on Sunday, which I'll say iron sights at Kalashni-Con is bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's so difficult. But no, I actually managed to pull out a first place podium on Saturday, and I'm honestly I'm kind of surprised because there's some very stiff competition. So what's his name? Casey Cook. He took second.
Yeah.
Or at least right now we know he took second. I have a feel, and don't get me wrong, Casey is a very good shooter. I've never met him until this last weekend, but Ryan Miller, oh my God, that guy. So he was I think he was a squad RO last year also.
Okay.
And he was the RO at the Rockwall stage.
Okay.
On Saturday. So he was our squad RO on Sunday, and so I got to firsthand to watch him shoot, and that guy has put in so much work. And I talked to him a little bit after the match, and he talked about how he's not only put in the dedication to his shooting, but he's like done a change to his diet, tried to lose, and not tried, but has successfully lost quite a bit of weight. I mean, he's done a huge, and it showed because he was just he beat everybody period on Sunday, like everyone. He had the overall win.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then you ended up also taking third overall on Saturday, which was also pretty cool as well. So, yeah, man, freaking.
I think that's the best overall I've ever done. Maybe, I don't know. I'd have to look at some of the past K-Cons. But.
Well, I will say for me, this is a bit of a win because as I'm looking through the standings, my first Kalashni-Con I shot with the Moons, Brian Moon and his wife Carol. Is it Carol?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm just now looking at the results, and I placed 2 behind Brian Moon. So that is a huge win in my book as well, because he's a fantastic shooter. He's one of those guys that travels all over the place and shoots as well. And let me tell you, our squad, we had some good people shooting this time around too.
Oh yeah.
Obviously we had Jamie, Midwest Savage. We had Tomislav, who I was expecting him to eat my lunch this year. Cause he pulled out that mini jack that him and Mark Krebs worked together on. And he ran a couple stages. I was just like, oh, he took a overall win on the Cowboy stage Saturday.
Yep. He beat me.
Yeah. And I'm just
he is first and I'm second on that one.
Yep. And I sat there and watched him and then ran mine, and he did it in 106 seconds, you did it in 107, and then I did it in 128. And here I am like getting ready to chuck my rifle into the woods because I'm like, how do you go any faster than what I already did? It's right. Like, I don't get it.
Well, let's see, what the blind stage you were talking about on Saturday. Let me see. I think that's it. So the guy I was just talking about, Ryan Miller, they were saying, they were talking about him being just absolutely on fire Saturday. And I still think I'm going to maintain first once they get all the scores, figured out, because he has a stage that he shows he completed, but he has no time on it. But the stage in question, I was ahead of him. So not by a ton, but I was ahead of him. But I think it was his stage. It was the one that he was ROing on Saturday.
Yeah, right on.
But he's going to be right there behind. I mean, just like literally nipping at my heels. And we got to that blind stage, and I don't know if you remember, they were telling me the time that he got, which I think was like 149, which is still pretty fast. All I heard was 49.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, there is no way a human being ran this stage in 49 seconds. And I said that, and whoever I said that to also misheard, and they're like, oh no, yeah. And then I ran it, and I think I ran it in, it was 130, 140. And I was like, oh man. And I was just like, I don't get it how he ran it that fast. And then at the end, he's like, oh no, that's a stage win. I'm like, no, but you said this guy ran it in 49 seconds. They're like, no, 149 seconds. I'm just like, oh my God. But the funny thing is, hearing that before I went to run that stage, that's the standard that I held myself to. I was like, well, that's what I have to chase because he's in my division. So if I want to do really well, that's what I've got to do. And it's weird how that works. I mean, you and I both have shot with Neil, the combat accountant on Instagram, and he's kind of the same way. Even though Neil is an unbelievably outstanding shooter and super good guy all around, he is just in another class of shooter than I am. But I still chase that. If he's shooting, I try and just watch and learn anything I can just from watching him shoot or listening to him with any advice and stuff. But I tried. That's what I'm shooting for is Neil level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's something that I've, over the last, I would say, I guess these last 2 years, that's what I've really trying to hone in on. I watched Neil shoot my first Kalashni-Con. So that would have been 3 Kalashni-Cons ago. So technically 2 years ago, but, and the first time I watched him, I only got to see him run one stage. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, he doesn't seem like he's all that great because he had a really bad stage, missing targets, forgetting his shooting order, having to run back and forth, so on and so forth. I was like, I think if I really apply myself, if I really work hard, I think I could beat him. And then we squatted together last year and I watched him shoot and I was like, okay, well that's a pipe dream. There's no way. There's no way. And
I got lucky. My first experience with Neil was my very first competition ever. And it was Clash Bash 2020, 2021. That was the one that had to postpone due to COVID.
Yeah, I think that
was the second one.
It was 21. Yeah, it would have been 21.
Yeah, so I showed up and it just must have been written all over my face, because all my friends that I knew from Instagram, maybe not knew in real life, but they were already all squatted up because again, first competition, I don't know how any of this works at all. And so they're just like, all right, you're kind of an odd man out. We're just going to squad you. We're going to put you on a squad. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, it's not going to matter because I'm not going to know hardly anybody. And, I'm sitting there at the first stage trying to watch. And again, must have been written on my face. And both Neil and AK Mario come up and they're like, hey, man, is this your first match? I was like, yeah, sure is. And I was like, is it that obvious? And they're like, yeah, a little bit. And they're like, don't worry. Just like, we're going to help you out. And those guys, and I'll reference this a lot. If anytime anybody asks me about this kind of stuff, those guys helped me out so much and put me down the right path to do it, like the way to do things and stuff in competition. And at Clash Bash, it's like my thing to shoot light irons. I've only shot not that like twice. But that year is my first year, and I was shooting a Crink, which we all know has like the greatest iron sights ever.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I still, for my first competition, I still think I placed. I want to say it was like around 10th or something. I was top half in my division, and I think I was. I'd have to look at it. I know I was top in the top 50 to 100. And I thought, my first competition, I'm going to do probably absolutely dreadful. And I actually ended up, I surprised myself, honestly. And, but a lot of that is because those guys were there to help and coach me.
Yeah, 100%. And being able to talk with Neil about certain things last year was extremely helpful as well, and just picking those things up. What's interesting is that you and I both started Kalash Bash and Kalashni-Con at the exact same time.
Really?
Yep. 21 was my first Kalash Bash. And then what, I guess 23 would have been my first Kalashni-Con. So, yeah. So that's pretty cool. But which is also kind of, for my part, a little bit of jealousy and frustration at the same time. Here you are podium already, and I've been shooting competitions for like a decade now. So, so obviously it's the Indian, not the arrow.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, again, going back to, how I was brought up, like, my dad, he shot competition, even though it's like oddly enough, that was something I never really did with him. But I mean, he was teaching me how to shoot from the time I was like 5 years old. So I've put more rounds downrange than quite a bit of people. I'm not going to say most people, but I've quite a bit. Now, like Neil, he's definitely shot more than me. But like when I talk to some other people that go to some of these competitions, and I get, not everybody has, I think we've talked about it. Like I literally have my ranges in my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a requirement whenever my wife and I were looking for a house to buy. But I get not everybody has that, so it's a little bit different. But I mean, you can ask my wife, like when Kalash Bash is coming up or Kalashni-Con, if I have a competition, something like that that's coming up, I will have literally like an autistic level of determination. Like, hey, I have a free day, I have to shoot. It may not be a whole case of ammo, but I have to go shoot. Like I've got to work on things, and I also try to be my own worst critic. Like I'll set up stages and run them, and I'll score myself. It's like, all right, I either like if I do bad, I'm like, all right, this is something I need to work on. Like whatever, transition from target to target, something like that. Or if I go through and I'm pasting all my targets and, all my hits are within 1 or 2 inches, that tells me I can push on the gas a little bit harder.
Yep.
Go a little faster. But yeah, I mean, some people that go to these competitions, they practice maybe once a month. And it's just, I mean, that's probably fine if you're also dry firing like crazy.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I'm kind of excited for here. I would hope by the end of this year, Mantis is going to have a Blackbeard for AKs. So that for those of you that don't know, the Mantis Blackbeard, they have them for ARs at the moment, but it is basically a trigger resetting I guess, adapter for your firearm. So you will take out for your AK, you're going to take out your bolt carrier group and replace it with this device that resets your trigger and allows you to even work on magazine reloads as well. And you don't have to worry about doing the I don't want to say it's silly, but you come up, you pull the trigger once, and then you have to simulate pulling the trigger as you transition from target to target. It works. Tons of competition shooters use it. It's free, but if you still need that positive reinforcement of pulling a trigger, the Mantis Blackbeard is an option, and hopefully by the end of the year, they'll have the AK version ready to go.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so too. I've played with the prototypes. I've been lucky enough to have a Mantis rep in my area, so we've had an opportunity to talk with them several times. So, but yeah, needless to say, that'll be something to be pretty interesting and really help with becoming better at transitioning targets. Because that's one of the things that I found at Kalash Bash was I was used to going fast, especially with my setup, and I ended up overshooting an entire target, meaning as I transitioned from one target to the next, which were shoulder to shoulder, I pushed too far over to the right and pulled the trigger and completely missed the target on both shots. So just going way too fast, you know? And
yeah, that's Clash Bash is definitely the typical style of match that a lot of people think of if they know, about competition rifle shooting and stuff. It's mostly cardboard targets. You you really got to know some stage planning and stuff to do well at Kalash Bash.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And that's one of the things I was listening to somebody on Saturday. Maybe it was you talking about it, but USPSA that was brought up in conversation rather, and the comment was made that USPSA is really good at teaching you how to stage plan.
Yeah, that was so. That is my plan here for a while. Is to start to shoot some USPSA matches, because where I'm at, I can get to a USPSA match pretty easily driving maybe 1 hour, if that.
Wow. Okay.
Personally, I would rather shoot rifle matches. That's just my thing. I just love shooting rifle matches or two gun. I like K-Con is like I love two gun matches.
Mm-hmm.
But if I want to shoot something like that, I'm going to have to drive. I think they've got some PCSL matches going on now up around Kansas City. So that's going to be anywhere from 2.5, 3 hours away from me. And then we were mentioning before, Casey Cook, who took second in Magnified Saturday, he either works at or shoots at, there's a range, I think it's just south of Oklahoma City, and I can't remember the name of it, but they do a lot of two-gun and carbine matches. So they're not unbelievably far from me, but that would take your entire day for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I know that Mill Creek is to the east of me, about no more than an hour and a half, and it's a great range. They do a really good job on 2 and 3 gun stuff. I've never ran a USPSA match out there, but that's still having to get up by 5 o'clock to be on the road to be there with enough time to sign in and stuff like that. It can get you a little challenging,
Yeah.
So I've got a 2-gun match this weekend, and it's still, even though it's just up the road, it's still an hour away by the time I get there, So those are some of the things that make it a little bit more difficult, but at the same time, we still go.
Oh, yeah.
So, what would you say? What would you like to see improved for Kalashni-Con moving into next year?
And I've mentioned it in again my Instagram after action review there. I want to see more pistol.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't recall the expected round count from our first K-Con, but I feel like it was quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I brought 100. I could have swore I brought somewhere between 200 and 300 rounds. Now, granted, I usually try to bring pretty close to double what the expected round count is. Another thing I've learned from Neil, because he's like, you never know when you're just going to have an absolutely trash match that you just end up having to make a ton of makeup shots and stuff, and it's better to have the ammo than not have it. And then, of course, our first year at Big Pint, or at Versailles, which is the lead farm, the count went down again. This year, it went down to 30 rounds per day to shoot it clean.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I still had fun, but I love that aspect of it because, the two gun it's just different. And I think they are going to increase pistol, but I feel like I wasn't alone in that. I know RJ, who loves to shoot pistol.
Oh,
He
yeah.
agreed. He's like, oh yeah, I totally want some more pistol. So, and there's some people I know that naturally it's not something. It's difficult to be decent with a pistol. Way more difficult than it is to be decent with a rifle. And so that's why I think some people weren't very outspoken about that. They're actually probably kind of happy to see the amount of pistol go down. But yeah, that's a big one for me. So I'd like to see the pistol come up.
Because Saturday, I think we only had two stages of 6. There was only 2 stages of pistol on Saturday.
Let me see. Why not? The expected round count per day was 30.
Yeah, and so our first stage, which was entitled "Ring My Bell," we had you had to shoot through the 3 different tires. That was that one.
There's
and
that
then
one, and then there was the blind stage, and then the rock wall.
Oh, okay, so 3. Okay, yeah.
So
I forgot
the
about
rock
the
wall stage. That one, if this is an indicator here of how difficult KCON can be. So this stage that Mark did well at, for the pistol portion, they only let you take 1 magazine, and that was a 10-round magazine. There was 10 steel targets that you had to engage while holding an ammo can that weighed about 40 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And your body had to be touching this tank trap all while doing it. And so you're engaging all these targets, also shooting one-handed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so, like, if you miss one time, just like we were talking about at the beginning, that's a 30-second FTN.
Yep.
So, and I mean, some of that stuff, like, in the moment can be extremely frustrating, but then, like, as soon as you step away from it, or at least for me, it's like, it's frustrating in a fun way to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why we keep on coming back.
Right.
So, I would second that. I would love to see more pistol stuff. I would have been perfectly happy to have some type of pistol engagement on every stage. Yeah. Maybe we do one solo rifle stage, but outside of that, I mean, I would have loved more pistol stuff. Yeah. So, yeah. I was also thinking that maybe just not too much, maybe just one minor notch up on the physicality of the match.
Yeah, I would say there was only I would agree, because there was only a few stages that were really like that had me winded at the end.
Yep.
That said, though, so for instance, Sunday, the stage that I'm missing, I don't know if you've seen any video footage of it yet, but they basically made a crate out of pallets, and you had to get inside it and shoot through the slots at this plate rack at about 50 yards. And as soon as you miss one target, that's just one miss, you have to put the rifle on safe, put it down, get out of this crate, run over to this table, and draw your pistol and hit one steel lollipop. Then you could place, safe the pistol and put it on the table. But then you had to go back and get into that crate, get your position back up and everything, and start re-engaging steel. Once you cleared the plate rack once, you still had to get out, go over, shoot pistol, and come back and clear the plate rack again.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah. So this is one of the things I really loved about it is, yeah, there were some stages that required some running, but you really had to not go all out on that, because say you just missed and you get out of the crate and you book it as fast as you can, go over it and shoot your pistol and book it as fast as you can, dead sprint. Well, now you've elevated your heart rate.
Yep.
And it's not going to be any easier to hit those steel targets than it was before when you missed. And so now if you miss again due to that elevated heart rate, guess what? Your heart rate's going to go up some more because you're going to have to get out and run again. So that I enjoyed that quite a bit. That it was, there was physical, but you had to also be smart about it. At the same time, I do agree though. I would like to, because I don't get me wrong, I'm still tired, or I was tired from the match, and it wore me out. But I thought it might have been just me, but I felt like I was not quite as worn out as I was the 2 previous years, and I'm definitely not any younger.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, the first year that we both competed there. So the last year of Big Piney, that first day, that really wore me out. Especially our first stage that my squad did was lugging around that 60-pound duffel bag, and having to sprint from the starting position to your first shooting position, and then sprinting another 60 yards with that 60-pound bag. That really wears you out quite a bit. And then there's another stage where you had to like climb on top of a van and shoot from the prone on top of this van, which was,
yep.
I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yep.
And I just remember after the first day, they did their award ceremony and everything, and that was cool. And I got a bite to eat, and I went and found a high spot, called home, made sure that everybody knew that I was okay. And I was like, I'm going to bed. And I crawled into my freaking rooftop tent, and I was done. And yeah. And then next day, wasn't as physical. But even still, it was, by the end of the weekend, I was done for sure. So,
yes, I'd say the same. That stage you were mentioning about that duffel bag, I'm pretty sure it had more weight in it than that.
I think so too.
I think it was closer to around 100 pounds. But yeah, that one, like I remember, because both you and I both, we go to the gym, and we take our fitness somewhat seriously at least. And I remember after getting off that little rooftop type platform that we were shooting, God, what was it, 200 or 300 yards through vehicle windows and hitting steel targets. I was flat sucking wind by the time I got back. Like I was literally having to, make sure, like you were saying in the group chat before the match, like make sure you breathe. And I'm just like, just trying not to pass out. And I was just like, man, that was a difficult one. But I mean, again, maybe we are weird or something, but I love it. And it's not that I don't also love normal competitions, but again, since KCON, it's kind of its own thing. And that's one, unless something just totally off the wall happens, or Matt all of a sudden decides he just doesn't want to do it anymore, that's one that I'll probably always try and go to.
Yeah, 100%. Kalash Bash and Kalashni-Con have been both staples of mine. I'd like to get to AK Masters, but man, the logistics behind it, and that's something I was talking to Neil about. I asked him, I was like, hey man, you going to make it to KC? And he was like, nah, man, it's, I'm going to go to Masters. KC, it's just going to be too much logistics for me to deal with. So I'm just going to focus on Masters. And I was like, oh, that's fair. And I didn't quite understand what he meant by that. And then I started putting it into my own head as, how am I going to get to AK Masters in Georgia? I'm going to have to drive. And that is pushing 20, about 18 hours at least. So, not advisable to do it in one day,
No.
So I don't want to fly because I'm not going to be able to carry the ammunition, the amount of ammunition that I want. So, yeah, logistics is always going to be an issue on those types of things. So,
Yep. So I want to say it was last year, right after KCON, Bandito Bill hit me up and wanted to know if I wanted to go to Masters and be a sponsored shooter for Sure Shot. And I was just like, oh, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love to, but I was just like, dude, that's in 2 or 3 weeks. And he's just like, yeah. And I was like, dude, I've not made plans, A, financially, or B, any time off or anything to be able to do that. Like that's, I mean, I appreciate the opportunity, but I just like, I don't think I can A, afford the ammo, B, afford the plane tickets and stuff. And then, like you were mentioning, it's like getting ammo because you can't fly with it. So I would have to either buy it and ship it or have somebody that I know that lives close there buy it and have it delivered to their house and me pay them back, something like that. I mean, it becomes, like you said, it just becomes a nightmare.
Yeah. And so it's going to end up being one of those situations where you find someone local, that could help you out. And at the very least, maybe you mail them the ammo ahead of time, or, maybe even send them some money and then they just go pick it up for you, and then you link up before the match or something to that effect. So, it's one of those things, but that's a next year problem for me. So
yeah, that's one that I ever since, actually I think it was like the year before that, I was thinking about it, and I eventually I would like to go. I've talked to my wife about it, and I think she's at least somewhat on board. I know we've also talked about going out to Red October Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
And that one seems interesting, despite Clay's video where he said he almost died of heat stroke.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that it by no means is this a slight against Clay, because Clay's just, when it comes to competitions, he's a beast. But dealing with heat is something that you legitimately have to prepare for. You mentioned in our group DMs is like, hey man, if you guys haven't started hydrating, you need to do it now. The weather for us was upper 70s, low 80s for Kalashni-Con, and it still was pretty hot. And luckily for me, I had already started hydrating. So on Saturday, man, I think I hit the Porta-John like 10 times.
Yeah.
Most of that's nerves. When I get nervous, I have to go take a piss a lot, for some reason.
Same.
But dealing with the heat is one thing, and also allowing yourself time to adjust to your new environment. I took so it is a course called DART from Dark Angel Tactical, and DART is direct action response training is what it is. It's basically for us military guys, it's like combat lifesaver. So stop the bleed as quickly as possible. And one of the little tidbits that was mentioned is altitude, especially as you increase in altitude, will actually dehydrate you faster.
Wow.
And one of the things that you have to prepare for, so let's say that hypothetically speaking, I wanted to go to Colorado, either you or I, because we're not too far away from each other.
Right.
But we wanted to go to Colorado and shoot a match in Colorado. You want to have at least 1 hour per 1,000 feet of change. Is it 1 hour or 1 day? It was 1 day per 1,000 feet elevation difference to make sure that you're acclimated so you don't get altitude sickness. Because a lot of people go to the mountains, they'll go skiing or they'll go climb or hike in the mountains, and, they'll get there and then they just go. And the next thing you know, they've got headaches, they're dizzy, they've got altitude sickness. And the recommendation is a day per 1,000 feet of elevation change. So going from 1,000 feet elevation in Kansas, I think probably where you're at is about the same as well.
Probably pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close. To then, going to say, like, I want to go ski. So one of my favorite resorts to go to is Steamboat Springs. The bottom of the mountain is like, it's like 8,400 feet. And so that's a change of 7,000 feet, which means in realistic terms, you should be there for a week before you start doing any type of strenuous exercise or anything like that. So, and then once you move out to inclement climates, such as the desert, you should also allow time to adjust as well and make sure that you're hydrating ahead of time. Because I go to Vegas for SHOT Show, and let me tell you, I'm there 6 hours and my hands are already starting to crack, even though I'm crushing freaking water. Yeah. It'll mess you up pretty quick. So
I've been up to Vegas a couple times here in the past 5 years or so. And it's just, it's very different. Like that people talk about, it's a dry heat and stuff. And it is, because it's a lot more humid here, but it's just, I don't know. There's both good things and bad things about it.
Yeah. And but needless to say, there's also thunder in the tundra. I can never say that correctly. But that's one that I also want to try to hit up just to see what it's all about. I hear people talking about it.
I think Jamie and those guys go.
Yeah.
Pretty frequently.
Yeah. So. Tommy was asking about it and he's like, you should go. And I was like, yeah, I definitely want to do it. But I mean, again, the logistics of it is not very difficult because my sister lives in, central Wisconsin. So if I needed to, I could just crash with her, no problem. So, and naturally I can drive. That's an easy drive. But I just don't know anything about it. I've never been to it. I've never seen really any videos about it. So it's just one of those things I haven't explored yet.
Yeah.
So one of the other things too that you brought up, you talked about over the weekend, is some of the different tips and tricks that you were kind of bestowing on the rest of our squad. Take a few moments and talk about some of the things that you've learned from shooting these competitions to either prepare you or, things that you do during a match that kind of helps you along. A prime example is you and your wife jotted down every single time with all the different bonuses or missed targets or whatever the case may be, kind of share some of those tips and tricks.
Well, again, I'm going to brag on Neil because a lot of this stuff I've learned from him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the first ones, or one of the most distinct ones I remember bringing up, I mean, obviously that one you just said is a very good one. And especially in the situation that, myself and some other guys are in with the Kalashni-Con scores, is, keep track of your scores. Because K-Con, sometimes they'll show you your time on the shot timer. Sometimes they'll show it to you on the tablet. But if you can, get that time from the shot timer, because that time has to be entered manually.
Mm-hmm.
And, I highly doubt, I mean, I'm not going to say it's never happened, but I highly doubt an RO is going to try to enter your score incorrectly on purpose, but they are human. So, I think all of us have fat fingered a number trying to dial somebody's phone number.
Yep.
or something like that. So, I mean, that error can happen, and just having a record of that could, again, I think it was the very match that Neil told me about that. Like, I watched him go in and correct something that probably would have kept him from podium. But yeah, definitely do that. I think one of the first ones I remember bringing up is, I can't remember what we were shooting. Maybe it was, I don't know if you were there. Because I know I brought it up in the on Sunday when we were shooting inside of that crate. Your natural instinct as a right-handed shooter, if you're going down into kneeling, is to put your left, your support hand, your left elbow on your left knee and have your left knee up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, people will typically do that when they're shooting off of something like a barricade, something where the rifle has support already up front. And again, this is something I learned from Neil, and he let me do it wrong. And then he's like, hey, next time do this. And I got to see in real time that he was most definitely right. So instead, now the front of the rifle is easily supported. Like you're not having to work that hard to support it. It's the back of the rifle that needs more support. So you want to bring your dominant side knee up and let your right elbow rest on that, and you'll be in a way better shooting stance.
Mm-hmm.
And that helped me a lot on that stage at KCON, shooting through that crate. You see, this is something that I learned actually, not from competition shooting. It was some classes that I took. Like if I'm at a stage that, like Kalash Bash, we had the Cowboys and Indians stage.
Yep.
So I pretty much completed that stage, and then it was very windy that weekend, and it blew one of the targets down, and so the RO made me stop, and they went and fixed it, and then I had to start the stage again. So both times I said it out loud. I drew the block, and I said it out loud to myself. I mean, I know some people are probably like, why is this guy saying this out loud? And I don't know. It's just like it for me, at least, it further cements that in my brain. And sometimes I'll say it more than once. That way, I don't just look at it and be like, oh, I'll remember that. And then, if you've ever shot a competition, I don't care who you are, everybody's had that instance where the RO asks, hey, shooter, are you ready? Do you understand the course of fire? And you say yes, the beep goes off, and then you forget everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So,
I mean, it's just as easy, especially on a mental stage. So not only are you trying to plan out how to shoot it, but if there's, if it can change basically via luck of the draw, which targets you shoot, then it just adds that extra layer of difficulty. And so, yeah, I'll always, I'll do that. And also at Kalashni-Con Sunday, there was a situation where there was 10 pistol targets out, and you had to at first only shoot 5 of them. And the RO was like, you can shoot more if you want, but the problem is that they're going to basically they're either like not going to count basically, and basically turn into FTNs, because you have to go to this other side, shoot rifle, then come back and shoot these remainders with pistol. And so I caught myself. I'd already shot 2 or 3, and then I stopped. I'm like, wait a minute, how many of these have I shot? And I had to look and count. And then after that, I was counting, maybe not out loud, but I was definitely counting in my head, like, all right, now I have this many, now I have this many. And after that, I made sure all my buddies, when they were shooting, I was like, you have this many left, now this many, now this many, that way. And we were able to get everybody through that stage without anybody overshooting any of those targets.
Yeah, and that was the same things that I did with, example, the scalp stage on Kalash Bash. Is our, stage RSO made it evidently clear that if you set down your rifle and it is not unsafe, you're done for that stage. So and I've got it on video, I'm saying out loud, safe, before I dump it, and then make sure my hands are completely off before I go over and start working on the dummies. And I did that intentionally. And so that's some, yeah, definitely some great advice, especially for those.
Same thing, like the same stage. I think I told you while we were there, I purposely made sure that I grabbed the wigs with my right hand, because that's going to be the hand that I'm setting my rifle down on. Because they said, hey, if you're still hanging onto your rifle as you grab one of these wigs, I forget, it was like a procedural penalty or something like that, or it didn't count, something. And I was like, I know myself, I'm going to try and go as fast as possible, and I'm going to mess something up, and he's going to see that I still have a hold of my gun, or I don't have it down all the way, and I'm going to be grabbing one of these wigs and I'm going to get a penalty. So I intentionally made it to where, I'm only grabbing wigs with my dominant hand. That way there's no way to mess it up, basically.
Yeah, for sure. One of the biggest things that I have found, for me, and this happened on stage 1 of Kalashni-Con, is something I'm going to ensure that I make a part of my routine. And this actually comes from golf, of all things. So last year I took up golf. A friend of mine is a huge golfer and wants to get me out on the course with them, just to have time together and just BS and stuff like that. So he's like, he's extremely competitive. I know he's really good. So I decided to take some lessons. And one of the things that my golf instructor asked me, he's like, what other hobbies do you have? I told him, I shoot competitions. And he's like, okay. Every time that you walk up to your golf ball to get ready to hit, you need to take a step back, and you need to obviously aim where you want, set the face of your golf club at a specific, I'm going to show you how to do it a specific way, so that as you walk up, the golf club face is already pointed in the right direction of where you wanted to hit it. And this is your prep. These are the routines that I want you to go through each and every single time you step up to hit that ball. Well, in competition shooting, we have the exact same things. And I learned this, that is very, very important. And that is doing an unloaded sight picture prior to every single stage. It sounds like that is something that, of course you would do that. You want to make sure your red dot's on. You want to make sure everything's good to go. Well, I did not do that on our very first stage on Saturday, Kalashni-Con. And I quickly found out in the middle of the stage that as I was prepping for the day, I decided to spray insect repellent around my waistline while my pistol was in my holster, which then fogged up my entire red dot. So I couldn't see through the red dot. I couldn't even see the red dot, so I couldn't passively aim with both eyes open. So here I am wasting like at least 5 seconds sticking my finger into the red dot to clean the glass off, tried to increase the brightness of it, trying to work through the problem to finish the stage. Had I take the extra 10, 15 seconds to get a unloaded sight picture, problem would have never presented itself.
Yep.
So that was a big takeaway for me on making sure that I'm following through on my pre-stage rituals,
Yeah.
So yeah,
that was, I managed to do not that, but, so actually where we're at our first K-Con, Big Piney, they have a small little 2-gun match there, second Saturday of every month. And it's not too far from me. It's about a couple hours. And I've been to a couple of them. And there was one time I went to shoot pistol, and I was ready to go and everything, and I didn't check anything. And then the timer goes off, and I bring my gun up, and my dot is so dim that I can't hardly see it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I just went ahead and ran the stage, didn't take time to turn it up. I just went ahead and ran the stage because I could still barely see it. But yeah, that was the learning experience for me. Like, it's almost like people say stuff, and sometimes you have to actually experience the bad to cement it in your brain. Like, hey, do this from now on for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's experience, that's what it really boils down to is, everything that we've fumbled on through Kalashni-Con has someone else has learned that lesson, and
Oh yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast is to share our lows and our mess ups, our fumbles, so that if anyone else is interested in shooting competition, that you'll know, oh, I remember listening to this on that podcast. I need to X, Y, or Z, So yeah, for sure. Any other advice as far as getting into competitions or what a new shooter should expect or anything like that?
I mean, I suggest anybody that should try it. Competition shooting. It's gonna, I'm not gonna say, because I've taken, classes and stuff. So on the real / tactical side of things, and there are a few things that translate over. I think it's a good metric, at the very least, to see if there's certain skills that you want to increase. But yeah, I mean, I think it's fun personally. I guess I could see some people not thinking that, but it is. But I don't know. I think everybody should try it.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a great way to, like we're just talking about, we've learned so much, and there's so many things. Some of the things are specific to, competition, but it's still, you'll learn some other things. Like, some people struggle with that whole height over bore thing with both shooting, over things, through things, or shooting targets very close up when you have like a high value or like a no shoot. That one, that's definitely one that really sticks with you. But yeah, just don't be afraid to do it. I would say. I mean, everybody, I don't think anybody has ever hit the ground running and just naturally are exceptionally good. Like, everybody started sucking, and got better.
Yeah.
So, don't be afraid to challenge yourself and, get out there and, there's, again, Neil, you're going to most likely you're going to meet some friends that are going to be great, so you should definitely do it. I mean, you don't necessarily have to do KCon or Kalash Bash or USPSA. You can find something that's some sort of, shooting competition and learn from it and have fun at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. My biggest thing when it comes to competitions is the concept of working through adversity. You get into, you set yourself up, you psych yourself up, you've got a plan, the buzzer goes off, and then your firearm decides that it wants to double feed. Are you just going to give up? Are you going to work through it? Those types of things. And then also the concept of problem solving, it's both of those kind of go hand in hand with each other. But prime example is, drawing my pistol and it's fogged up because I decided to spray myself with insect repellent before, instead of pulling my pistol out of my holster to do that, I just decided to do it with it in the holster. So having to work through that problem and figure it out and just be like, okay, well, this is the hand that I dealt myself. So, so that's one of the other things too, is that I really, really enjoy about competitions. I've got a good friend of mine who has been helpful with the YouTube channel and has loaned me a couple firearms, and I'm trying to get him to go to his first competition, and I get it. He's just like, I don't want to go out and make a fool of myself. And I was like, I mean, everybody does,
Yeah.
He's like, well, I don't know if I have everything I need. And I was like, I mean, do you have a sling? Yeah. Do you have a decent holster. Yeah. You have pockets. Yep. Okay. That's all you need.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So, but yeah, we'll hopefully he'll show up, but we'll see, you know, and I'll just keep on encouraging him, you know, and coaching him along and stuff like that. So, but yeah. All right. Well, I've had you on here a little bit longer than I was hoping, but
That's no big deal.
yeah, no. I do appreciate you taking the time this evening. Please tell your wife thank you for me. Appreciate, and it's always great to see her at Kalashni-Con. So, anything else that you want to bestow on the world? Give you the last 30 seconds to give us some folksy wisdom or anything like that. Feel free.
I don't know. It's probably going to sound pretty cliche, but just don't give up. I mean, no matter what it is, just like we're talking about competition, have some sort of malfunction or something. It's like, just keep your head in the game and push through it. I mean, it could be any part of your life, and you'll make it through the other side, and everything will be okay.
Yep, 100%. And that comes perfectly timed too, because over the weekend we were talking about our German Shepherds, and just yesterday morning, I got a huge scare that I was going to lose mine. She had a seizure, and at least that's what we think she had. The vets are not 100% sure what exactly happened, but they, based off of everything that we described had happened, they believe it was a seizure. So I can tell you that as a pet guy, as a dog guy, they're just as important to me as my own kids are.
Yeah.
So those of you who are out there that have pets that you absolutely love, man, love them like today is your last day that you're going to see them, and number two, start preparing for that bad day, because unfortunately it's going to come. And I can tell you, yesterday I was not prepared for that, but I now have a rejuvenated attitude towards Roxy Girl, and she's doing great, by the way. She really bounced back, and we don't understand what happened, but she had a pep in her step this morning when we gave her food. So yeah. So anyway, again, Boltz, man, thanks for swinging by. I really do appreciate it.
Not a problem. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Oh, absolutely. Next time we'll get Jefe in on this, and I'm sure that he'll have some trolling to do on all of it, because that's just what he does. So, but needless to say, I want to say a huge thank you to everybody that stuck with us this long. Boltz is a good friend of mine, and someone I look up to, especially in the shooting world. And if you guys are interested, please follow him on the social medias. I'll leave all of the different links in the description. You can find him at Boltz N, as in November, Holez, on the Instagrams. Where else? Is it just Instagram, or is it anywhere else?
Yeah, for now, I mean, it's mostly just Instagram. The plan is to get a YouTube channel going. So. Yep.
Absolutely. And if there's anything that I can do to help you get that going, please let me know, because
I'll definitely be shooting you some messages tomorrow.
Okay. So. Yeah, for sure. Because I've said it before, but I really do like your insight on things. Your stories and reels that you actually start deep diving into some stuff is actually pretty insightful. So I do appreciate that. So I'd love to see that. So again, guys, check him out. He would appreciate it. And I tell you, you're going to learn something anyway. So with all of that being said, we're going to go ahead and get on out of here. Again, a huge special thank you to our title sponsor, XS Sights. I didn't get a chance to ask this. Boltz, you ever mess with XS Sights at all?
I have never owned them, but I've looked down several sets of them.
Yeah. And well, I can tell you that I have become a huge fan of them, and I know I've got a few other friends that have them and just absolutely love them. So again, we need to say a huge thank you to them for their support of the channel. But we'll get out of here. Again, thank you guys for swinging by, and don't forget to live, laugh, and LARP. Take it easy, guys.